Negativity is what you would call a sickness. And it's interesting to say that because you have to ask yourself a question, as well as all of us have to ask. When people are negative continually, you have to ask them a question. And it's a good question to ask them. You ask them, why are you feeling this way? Usually in relationships with people are negative because they are feeling that they are not being seen or not being heard, or they're not being cherished by other people. They seem to fall into this disarray of not knowing really who they are and what they are. The negative soul can totally eat away at them, just like corrosion, where eventually the person's soul and how they view every situation as always being bad. I had a friend one time tell me, "You're asking the wrong person about a relationship because I'm jaded myself and I would be the wrong person to ask about the right way in a relationship because my life in relationships is not very good." And that being said, with relationships, it's interesting how many people have advice on what relationships should be or who they are or what they are. The truth of the matter is, though, really, is that we do not really know for sure by giving information to people that we know nothing about. After all, I had a close friend tell me one time that people thought that I was a certain way or a certain attitude. Until they got to know me, they realized that, well, you're not that way. But people seem to have a misconception of you. Again, the negativeness of an attitude toward other people or other people in general can cause a lot of grief for people, especially those that are low in spirit and yet getting fingers pointed at them and saying that they're a certain direction. A lot of people can't handle that. Unfortunately, it makes them feel less than what they're worth. Again, that being said, it doesn't really matter what you think, it's what you know. Knowing a person intimately and getting to understand the person is one of the rules of learning about life. Again, I could be judgmental and say that a person is a certain way, and yet never speaking to them, but only looking at their demeanor of how they are, and then immediately say, well, they're this way. Interestingly enough, though, people generally dislike people because they feel they either not live up to the standards of what they perceive the person to be, or they're not living up to their own standards of who they are themselves, basically pushing it under the rug. You again have to ask yourself if you're negative and why you're negative. Because a lot of times we never ask ourselves that question. The biggest problem we have sometimes is that we try to put people underneath us because it makes us feel better. But again, that is a very low way to speak or think about other people. In reality, the truth is that we're not secure with ourselves. We're going against someone else that we think is a certain way because security, faults in our own minds, runs deep. You yourself, yes, you and I, have to ask ourselves questions. We really have to get to the bottom of the question and really know, well, what am I doing? Or what am I not doing? Because, true, it works both ways. Negativity is a disease. It can fester and make a person go into a direction that normally they would not be in. But again, what are you being negative and why? Usually a negative person is because they have pains within their own hearts that they have not faced. And not facing those pains lets them, well, fall apart. Fortunately for us, though, we are beings that can learn from our own mistakes. A lot of times, though, that being said, it is tough. It is really tough to change. Change, though, is inedible unless we'd like to go down the same direction. Going down the same direction is not good because then we self-destruct and destroy ourselves. So the last point of the thought is, why are you or I negative. It's just something to think about, because negativity, again, doesn't get you to the place you or I would like to be. It only brings us down into the combs of depths of hell, to say. Thank you for watching Cowboy Philosophy, and you have a wonderful day, and thank you for subscribing. Take care then, and be positive as much as you can.